Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Shane O'Sullivan, and he is in UK.
That is correct. South Wales, Cardiff. The singer Tom Jones would know that place. It's not unusual.
Okay. And your near-death experience was during a seizure when you were 10 years old, correct?
That is correct, Peggy, yes.
It's so ironic because just last night a lady commented on one of my other videos, and she said that she had a near-death experience during a seizure, and she wished that I would have someone on that had a near-death experience during a seizure. And I said, well, you tune in tomorrow because
that is absolutely good to know, because I'm glad I can share my experience and someone watching my video today can relate, and I hope I can help others too.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you were playing a video game when this happened, right?
That is correct, Peggy. So back in the year 1993, I would say Christmas time, the best console computer on the market at that time was the Super Nintendo. So as a kid, that was my number one present on my list choice. So my parents got me the Super Nintendo, and this console come with two games. So it come with a game called Firefox, and there was also a gun which was attached to the console. So you could use like a gun, but that was only solely for Firefox. But there was also another game called Mario Kart. Now, that was the game I was playing on when it triggered the seizure. And at that time, my cousin, who was sitting alongside me, Sean, was playing alongside me, and we were racing each other. So I was Mario, he was Luigi. I think it's Luigi. But yeah, so we were racing. I was taking the lead, and all of a sudden, my left eye was flickering. And they do say that is signs of a seizure.
Can you hold that still? I'm getting seasick. That red wall is like.
Oh, sorry. Do
apologize. I get motion sickness really easy. I'm like, oh.
I think I've
got a seizure hell. Here.
I think I've gone from hell to heaven.
There you go.
Brilliant. And we're back to the right place. Yeah. So going back to what I was saying, my left eye was flickering, and I just felt a funny sensation coming on, and so I started blacking out, and all I remember was there was echoes of my cousin calling my father. He went running down the stairs, because me and my cousin, we were on the second floor, so we were in my bedroom playing on my console. So when this all occurred, I blacked out, and then the next thing I knew, Peggy, was I was going through like a fast tunnel. Now, this fast tunnel, the only way I can describe it is it was a purple circle which was going smaller and smaller, but I was going like 180 miles per hour. And I started picking up panic. I started feeling, what is happening here? Is my brain going funny? And before I knew it, the circle was going smaller and smaller and smaller. But if it makes sense, the circle was spinning at the same time. It was like a small tunnel. So I started off in a big purple tunnel. Then the tunnel was going smaller, but then there was black around the tunnel. So as the circle was going smaller and smaller, it was complete darkness. So I think this went on for about, it felt like to me 10 minutes. So at this moment, I'm going through panic. I'm thinking, what is happening to me? My brain feels like it's being sucked out like a vacuum. Then all of a sudden it went black for about 2 minutes, I would say. It felt like 2 minutes. So from 10 minutes going through this fast tunnel, darkness, a complete blackout developed. That lasted for 2 minutes. And then all of a sudden, it felt like I was looking at a small sun on a dark night. But you could see nothing on the dark night but this small little sun right in the middle. So in the middle, the sun was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that went on for 2 minutes. So where it was complete darkness for 2 minutes, the sun started to develop and it started getting bigger. So eventually, as this sun is coming towards me, I started seeing beautiful colors developing, and they were like strips. The only way I can explain it. So these colors turn into yellow, purple, orange colors, but they were all blending together, and then they were developing into like a cylinder, I would say. So from strips to a cylinder to a circle again, and then it all just completely went orange, and then all of a sudden the orange turned back to green, and then all of a sudden I'm in this magical kingdom, and I feel a older presence by the side of me, holding my right shoulder. So this older presence was walking alongside me, and what I could see to the right side of me was this beautiful lake. This beautiful lake, it was just a long lake. The water was crystal blue. Uh, I'm looking at this beautiful green grass alongside the lake. And on the opposite side of the lake, I could see a windmill, a white windmill. So I asked the question to this older presence who was guiding me along the way, walking along the lake. Where am I? Who are you? He said, Shane, keep walking. So I'm walking and I'm walking. So I point to this windmill. I say to this older presence, can we go in the windmill? He said, you cannot go in there, Shane. And then all of a sudden, this older presence starts skimming stones on the lake. So when he's skimming these stones, the stones are skimming, and then all of a sudden, rainbows are developing. So if it makes sense, if you're in a Mario game and you hit maybe a bonus point, so you throw a stone or you throw an object, you get a dollar sign. It appears as a dollar sign in the air. But for me, what was happening to me in this experience, there was rainbows developing. So I'm skimming these stones, and then all of a sudden we stop skimming stones, and we sit down. And there was this beautiful bench, this park bench. So we sat down, and this older presence, I had a little small glimpse of his face, but I knew he was, I would say, middle age, but he was older than me. But to this day, I believe it could have been my grandfather, because I felt so connected. It was a connection that I felt was a family member. He was guiding me, and it felt like a grandfather thing. And at that time, I was only 10. So he could have been maybe, I don't know what age you are when you reach heaven, or how you finish with your age. But all I know was this older presence was, I would say, looking at him, maybe mid-40s, Peggy. But I had a feeling it was my grandfather. But he told me, as far as we got to the bench, he said I could not go any further, and I had to walk back. So as I went to look the other direction, I had another blackout. So then I felt my body going through another vacuum, but this time it was like lightning speed, and I felt a lot of pain. And as I was going back into my body, I could see this same cylinder again, the same purple cylinder, but this time it was going a lot faster. But this time it didn't last about 10 minutes this time. It lasted about, I would say, a minute. So coming back through this tunnel again, I was outside my house. I had a bird's eye view outside my house. So I got out of the tunnel, and it was like I was going through my house, my mum and dad's parents' house. So as I'm coming through the roof, I'm going through my bedroom. So as I'm going through the bedroom, where I had my seizure, my mum and dad, they bought me a wrestling tent. I'm not sure if anybody listening to this video is aware of WWE, WWF. So back in that time, it was called WWF. And my mum and dad, they bought me for Christmas a wrestling tent. So me and my cousin, we put the tent up in my bedroom. But from what I remember, when I was hovering through the house, I could see a bird's eye view of my damaged tent. There was nobody in my bedroom. And as I was going through into the living room, I could see my cousin, my sister crying, and my dad holding me. And then before I knew it, my father was above me, and he was saying, "Shane, you had a nasty seizure. Just wait here, calm, stay calm." He said, "There's an ambulance on its way, and we are going to get you to a hospital straight away to find out what's happening." And all I remember was saying, "Dad, where am I? Where am I?" Because at that moment, I was in shock. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't speak. But then it was only until like a few days after this experience, I told my father of what happened. Now, my father's a Catholic, and he truly believes to this. Well, he would. We haven't spoke about it in about, I'd say, 15 years. Me and my dad. I had a few drinks with my father one evening, and we spoke about it. He said, "I remember that experience, and remember what I said to you. I believe you were blessed by heaven."
So
So
you told him right away.
yeah, but so when I got to the hospital, Peggy, they run tests. There was no sign of epilepsy, and to this day, I've never had another seizure. That was a one-off seizure that I had.
The only
But
one you ever had.
oh yes, and it's coincidental that I had that experience in heaven too. So
I'm sorry,
I
what?
don't. Sorry, Peggy.
What'd you say?
Oh, so to this day, with that one-off seizure and that experience that I had in heaven, um, for me, I would not put it down to a coincidence. I honestly believe something special out of this world happened to me. So when I reflect back on it, it was supernatural out of this world what happened to me. And the funny, well, it's not funny, but I could have spoke about it so many times, but so many people would think it was crazy. So I always put it down to a bad side effect and maybe a crazy dream. But now going forward, as we got technology, we got internet today, and there's so many people coming forward explaining this, their experience, what happened to them, and how they've been touched. I'm a big fan now of your TV show, and I've watched a couple of videos of two gentlemen that have had the same experience as me. So if they're watching this video, they could possibly relate to what I'm saying. And the tunnel going fast, and was a cylinder where the cylinder was getting smaller, and then you go in 180 miles per hour, and then it felt like a vacuum sucking you out. And then I got to a magical kingdom, but then coming back through the tunnel, it was a bird's eye view going through my parents' house that Christmas. So yeah, it was outlandish, supernatural, out of this world. But at the same time, I truly believe that I was blessed in heaven. Yeah.
What happened when you first come to and you went in the ambulance, and what did they say at the hospital?
So in the ambulance, I was in shock and disorientated, as you would imagine. So they just told me I slept a lot in the hospital that night. So they ran tests, and I stayed in overnight, obviously. So the following morning, a doctor came to see me. He took my pulse. He done an ECG on my heart. He said, "We're going to keep you in until the late afternoon." I can't precisely remember what time I left the hospital, but I know it was late in the afternoon. But they said just to be aware, it's been on TV broadcast that you've got to keep your light on when you're playing console games because of the high cartridge that can flicker with certain people's brain, or if certain people got epilepsy. But to this day, they didn't detect any epilepsy on my brain, and to this day, it was always something that I reflected back on and asked myself, what happened? When I was 10, back in 1993, because I've never seen a ghost, I've never seen Bigfoot, but I can honestly say, hand on my heart, that truly happened to me. Yeah.
What was your dad saying about it? Like, I come in, saw you. I mean, what was his story about it?
So what happened? I was unconscious. My father said, he said, your cousin called me up the stairs. And that's the last thing I remember before I went into the seizure was the echoes of my cousin running down the stairs, shouting to my father, "Bernard, Bernard, Shane's going funny, Shane's going funny," because my eye was flicked,
James
my left
what?
eye. Oh, Shane's going funny, kids, they say funny things.
Okay.
So my cousin, that was his explanation. Now bear in mind, my cousin was 13 at the time, so it was a bit shaky for him seeing the way I was. So he went storming down the stairs, shouting to my father, Burner, Shane's going funny. So my father, his recollection was he come running up the stairs. He grabbed me, he brought me downstairs because he was panicking. He phoned an ambulance straight away because he was going to put water. He's put water all over my mouth. He said because he wasn't sure if I was dehydrating fast. So he's keeping my mouth wet. He put a wet flannel over my head because I was, developing a fever. But at this time, I'm unconscious. But he said I was out my father for about 20 minutes. But he said he doesn't remember me not breathing. But who knows, if I did leave my body or not. But it was never detected that, I was pronounced dead or anything. But for me, but my experience, what happened, I can relate to a lot of people who are coming forward these days, Peggy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I wasn't pronounced dead in mine either. I just had the memories. So
yeah, so
a lot of us wasn't, at the hospital to be pronounced dead, or had machines nearby, somebody that can say whether we were actually, and who knows how long you laid up there before your cousin saw you.
well, yeah, this is it because I remember I was playing alongside my cousin for about 20 minutes. No, I'd say 15 minutes because we were playing on the Mario Kart. We were racing each other. And my eye was flickering, I would say, for about 10 minutes. And then I started talking funny. I was slurring my words. So then as I started shaking, that's when my cousin panicked.
Okay.
And he went running down the stairs. Shane's going funny, Burn. Oh, so you fans know my father's name is Bernard. So I'm saying Burn, it's Bernard, my father's name. So Sean, and my cousin Sean has passed on. So he passed away 10 years ago.
Oh.
So that was a sad time for our family. But yeah, that was one of the memories I remembered with Sean, when we were kids. That is the one that does stand out. So, yeah.
Do you feel you were changed, like as a kid? Were you any different, do you think, after that happened?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a good question, Alice Peggy, because a few things in my life, traveling. So if I'm traveling on a train, I see a windmill. I seen the windmill in this Magic of Kingdom opposite the other side of the lake. So when I was skimming stones and they were developing rainbows, on the other side of the lake, I seen this beautiful windmill. So anytime I would see a windmill, I get tingles. So that was one example. Like people talking about their experiences, I get tingles again. So it was, something that was related to that experience, I would develop tingles. So I can't help but think there's gold dust on me from that experience, Peggy?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's why I love doing these podcasts, for the tingles.
Yeah, so it's hard to explain because I was always a good kid anyway. So I've never had to reinvent myself. I've never had to retransform myself. I know there's certain people out there, they're reborn Christian or they reinvent their personality, they become a better person, or they've done something bad in their life and they're trying to turn a corner, and something like this can help them, go the right direction. But for me, I've always been a good person and never been an angel, but I don't think it reinvented me. But as far as the tingles go, there was always that bit of magic. I go past certain things, even rainbows. If I seen a rainbow, I get like a really good tingle, like because that was related to my experience.
Maybe when we have near-death experiences as children, we don't need to reinvent ourselves because we haven't got to those bad places in our life yet. We're kids, we're
Yeah,
innocent.
us.
And so maybe it's just easier to just go forward as, trying to be a good person our whole life. instead of, you know, having it later in life after you've done all the wrong things and then have to reinvent yourself. It's just a thought.
Yeah, of course. And what stands out for me is when you're a kid, you know, we always, as children, forget most things. So when you go through an experience like that and you can remember it detail for detail, it stays with you. So I truly believe I was given a gift, and it always stayed with me, and I remembered it from the beginning to the end. And so coming back um, on this planet, you know, I've always had the tingles, and I've always remembered it, you know, from the beginning to the end, and it's never left me. But it wasn't until I started trying to jog it all together, what it all meant, I'd say about when I was in my early 20s, because I was trying to work it all out, what it was. But then as the internet developed, people coming forward with their experiences, I'm able now to put myself in a position, and you're the ideal host to speak to, and you know, explain my experience to a lot of fans watching this. That yeah, these experiences truly do happen, and it can definitely touch you.
Yeah, especially when we realize it wasn't a dream, it was what they are calling near death experience. And you realize it was a heaven experience, and
Yeah,
it brings it forward more and more meaning and depth when we put it like on a silver platter instead of just kind of in the background, like it was a weird dream, don't know what to make of it. And then when we hear other people's and we realize this was a heaven experience, it just like magnifies it, and like we treasure it more for what it
yeah.
really was.
Mm. And I've been listening and watching other people's experiences where they've seen these beautiful colors, and it is so spot on because you feel like a bliss. And when that bliss hovers over you and you see it, I can't explain it. It just makes you feel very warm, welcoming, and you're part of a new family. And that's why I was confused. I couldn't make a decision whether to go back or stay. But when I got as far as the park bench, when I was walking alongside the older presence, walking alongside me, and then we were skimming stones, and then we sat down, and he said, "You need to go back." So maybe it was because I couldn't decide. I don't know, but I knew I was in a magical kingdom, and I truly believe to this day it was heaven. My father believed me, and he's one of the only few that did believe me because I explained it to my mother. My mother thought I was crackers. I explained it to my sister. She was 50-50. I explained it to a couple of friends. They thought I was nuts. So, yes, it was something else, Peggy.
I lost your picture there.
Oh, sorry. Right. Do apologise. My father was phoning me. Can you see me now?
Yep, there you are.
Yeah, sorry. I do apologise. My father.
That's okay.
My father is in hospital, believe it or not, and I didn't have a chance to explain this to you, Peggy, but he picked up sepsis, which
Oh,
was noticed by the doctors around about, I'd say, just before December. So going into December, they picked it up, and what it was, my father developed an abscess, which was blocking him from having food travel to the stomach. So eventually, my father's on the mend, God bless. You know, we can turn our health around, you know, providing that you got the strength within. So thank God that my father is on the right road. So that was him phoning me. So I do apologize for that
oh, that's okay. That's
interruption.
what got me to speak to you on Facebook is I saw you and your father holding hands. I just
That's
saw a
right.
picture of the
Yeah.
hands, and it touched my heart because just
It's well
recently
appreciated.
I had a picture of me and my sister like that in the hospital. And
Uh,
it touched my heart when I see those hands. I was like, I know what that person's going through just by taking the picture of that, of realizing how special this is and what moment that is. And you're just hanging on to them. And then we got talking.
of course, Peggy. Yes, and it's an absolute honor, privilege to speak to you, and also, get my experience across to many people who can relate to it or would like to find out more information about this. Because I feel blessed that I'm one of, the few on this planet that have gone through this. And knowing my father was in hospital, he was one of the few that believed this happened to me. And I honestly believe that's why I found the strength to come forward with this, because I don't tell many people this. So there's only like a small circle I like talking to. And I thought your TV show was the best place, best
I appreciate
platform, best platform to, get my experience across. So yeah, I do apologize about my dad. I think he's eager to get out of hospital.
it. Are you at the hospital now?
No. I'm at mine now at the moment.
Okay.
So in my IT room. So not to worry, it's okay. But he's on Skype, my dad. So we've been Skyping, and they've explained to me that he's going to be discharged soon. So I think he wants to be discharged sooner.
Yeah, this is my first time doing a podcast on Skype. I've always used Zoom.
Oh,
So
I do apologize.
that's okay. I needed to learn. So
I did try downloading Zoom. Unfortunately, it was not compatible with my phone or my laptop, so I
that
did try.
happens.
Yeah, but I hope this video is exceptional, and with the graphics and stuff, I hope it, is compatible with your TV show.
Well, I'm sure everyone will love your story. You have a very, very detailed story, and that's what people love to hear is the details.
Oh yeah, of course, and I could tell so many people this story, and it's exactly the same story, same experience. I honestly believe I didn't see God. Well, they say when you see the light, that could be a God presence. But for me, the only presence I felt connected to in heaven was my granddad. It's a weird one because I don't know which grandfather it was, because I never met my granddad. Both of my grandfathers, they passed on before I was born. But it felt like that magic, that really close connection. I was with one of them, but one of them was guiding me. We were walking alongside the lake, and then we were both skimming stones. And my father did say to me, he said, "Did you know that your grandfather, John L., used to skin stones?" So,
Huh.
who knows, Peggy? Who knows?
That's neat when we get those verified evidence like that later to something to confirm,
Yeah,
that had to have been who that was. And because that was your feeling who it was that confirmed it for you.
I had a feeling it was swinging. So my grandfather was John L., and then my other grandfather, his name was Ivor. So Ivor was a big guy, but this guy was a bit slimmer. So this older presence, I believe, was John L., and he was guiding me.
What did you see of that presence?
I seen. All I remember was he had like. It's hard to explain. It's like a farmer, short sleeve jacket on, so you could see his arms, but there was only clothing up past his elbows, and he had like his hair was kind of so it's short. His hair was short, but at the same time it was like wavy, and I'd say I couldn't see his face clearly, but it just felt like I was talking to my grandfather for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mom, my memory's still a bit foggy on that, because it happened when I was 10, and but from what I remember was he had like a farmer kind of short sleeve top on. I'd say he was about 3 foot over me. I can't explain how that was, but his right hand was on my right shoulder. He had his arm around me, and we were walking alongside the lake. He said, "Right, sit down." But I remember looking at him sideways. I looked at his side of his face, and I just felt like, you can't speak to someone direct. But it's like telepathic, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was getting like
Yes.
messages coming across, like, I'm your grandfather, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's like we don't have these physical eyes and physical ears there. We have something else that we're
Yeah.
seeing through, hearing through, a thinking process. We don't have the brain, and so it is different. And so it's not going to be exact. You know, it's not going to be clear, I think, in most situations.
Because I remember, I think I vaguely remember I was looking at him sideways, and I said, "Are you my grandfather?" And he said, "You can't go any further. You have to go back." I didn't get like a definitive answer.
Yeah.
He didn't say yes. He didn't say no, but it felt like I don't know. It was that's as far as I could go. That's as far as the information I was gonna get.
Yeah.
So, but I always had that connection with him, and he was like on the bench. He was like, so if you can picture, he was like skimming stones on the bench. He was also doing a standing, but then that was one of the last visions I seen of him. He was skimming stones off the bench, and I was doing it, and then all of a sudden I went like storming back into my body. I went back down that tunnel, but this time the tunnel was going faster. Then I was hovering over my parents' house. I went through the bedroom, all the way down to the living room, and then I could just see my family, like as a bird's eye view. I see my sister crying. I see my cousin, my brother, and then all of a sudden it was like very painful. It was like a bad pain impact. Then I was in my body, but then I felt just sore. Just sore. The pain had gone, but I felt very sore. I had a massive headache, and my father was hovering over me. So yeah, that
It's,
was an experience.
that's amazing when during our NDE, we have both a heaven experience and a earth experience. Like, you know, my drowning was an earth experience. I was just like ghost
Yeah,
kid Roman. But then my second one, I was in heaven, but then Jesus and I dropped down to earth and we were seeing my kids in the future. So I know what you're saying, that to be in one, like you say, a kingdom, and then be in the room, in the house. And I think you kind of like was like over the house at first, and then you
yeah,
come in the room. That's the
yes,
way it was for me when Jesus and I come down checking my boys in the future. We were over the trailer roof at first, but it was like there was no roof. We just dropped down straight in
yeah.
into their bedroom.
It was like my energy was going through the house, like my soul and my energy, and I wasn't crashing. I was just going through the roof, then through the ceiling from the bedroom to the living room. Then it was like a slow kind of pace. So I was
Yeah.
like floating above my parents, and then they were, worried, just guiding around me, and then all of a sudden I went storming back into my body, and all I remember was I had a massive headache. I felt very sore, but before I got to my body, there was a very painful impact, and I mean the painful impact that lasted for about 3 seconds, but then I was sore, and I just remember having that headache for about a good hour or so well, then the ambulance put me in, and I slept all night, so to say.
It
Yeah,
sounds like some kind of brain injury
yeah,
that did to you, did something to your brain.
yeah. But
No.
to this day, because I think I did go into hospital another time where I was playing football, and they had to do a full ECG because I took a bang to my rib, but they wasn't sure if I burst an organ inside because I was having a lot of pain. And they done a full CAT scan on me, so they know that my brain's okay. And also, they run tests to, detect if I had epilepsy, and it all come back clear. So that one-off seizure, it's just always stayed with me, I
Yeah.
guess, Peggy.
Yeah, I've had, MRIs and, and the CT scans, and, my brain comes back fine too, but I was like, I'm good. I'm drowned. I was hit by a car, knocked out cold, taken to the hospital. I've been knocked out cold by people punching me in the head, so there's been a lot of damage, but they say everything's fine. Other than the last time I was beat up right after my second C-section by a woman, they said the part of my brain affects my vision, because I have had double vision ever since then. But then years later, I went back to that same neurologist, and he says, I don't see anything, and I don't have any record where you were here before. So I guess there is a scan. A friend of mine went clear to Colorado to have it, that can tell every injury you've had to your brain. So if you've had a seizure, you've been
Yeah.
unconscious, anything, it can show up, pinpoint when it was. I thought that was amazing. So I wanted to
Wow.
go have that done just out of curiosity, but it's expensive.
Wow. You know, the correct medical science, the right doctors, the right team. You know, it's amazing what they can accomplish these days and what they can pick up. But scientists these days, like we've mentioned before, Peggy, they've also stated that seizures can encounter, you know, near-death experiences. So when I started doing my research, before I, you know, I'm speaking on your show, it kind of encouraged me to do this because, like I mentioned earlier, I always thought this was a crazy dream and it was a bad side effect. What happened to me, triggered by the Super Nintendo. And now, as many people, like I did say, are coming forward, we are all able to relate, um, you know, connect on, you know, the same level, you know, heaven. So I honestly believe it's a blessing and something that's definitely going to stay with me till, you know, till I die, till I go
Yeah.
back to heaven. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that these souls happened outside of our brain. They happen in our soul memory. And so it's like our soul is perfect. It doesn't forget, you know, and so we carry these because it's not, the brain isn't going to forget it because it didn't happen within our brain. It's just my feeling.
Yeah, 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 of course. You know, your heart, your mind, your soul. You go through an experience like that, especially when you get to heaven. I was there, Peggy. I would say maybe 2 minutes. It felt like the most beautiful 2 minutes of my life. You know what I've ever encountered. You know,
Yeah.
to get to a place like that and feel the bliss, to feel like you're harnessed and you're fresh, and purified.
Yeah.
Um, it felt like you were floating too with the beautiful colours you were seeing. A very warm feeling, and yeah, just it was worrying for me to explain this to many people. But I just feel truly blessed. I can
Yeah.
tell people who I can relate to.
Yeah. Because you don't know, like we do these, who's listening. It could be somebody on their deathbed in the hospital or at home in hospice and give them hope of what they're going to. They're going to that kingdom. They're
Yeah,
going through that tunnel. They're going to that light. They're going to the home God has made for us. And
yeah,
it's an honor to be able to let people know what we saw. And I know when 2 years ago my mother-in-law was passing, she had read my book, she'd heard my stories, but it really rung true and come home as she was on her deathbed. And I
wow,
could look at her and say, Janice, I was never lying to you. This is what's going to happen. Your son is right here waiting on you. It died when he was 5 years old. Your parents are right here. All the people that's passed, they're waiting right here for you. They're standing right here in this room and they're waiting for you. And
yeah,
I let her know that, people that's had NDEs, when their friends and family die, they say they got to turn their face and not let anyone see them because they're smiling. They're happy because they know where they're going. They're so happy for them. And I said, some of them say they're jealous. And she was like, really? Like she's looking at death like this bad thing, like she lost something. Like it's over. And I'm like, oh no, this has been there. Can't wait to go back. And she was just looking at me like, and I felt I was walking her home. And if I hadn't had these experiences, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
yeah.
I was
It's
so
true.
happy for her.
Mm. It's also worth mentioning, Peggy. When I had my seizure, um, I actually did stop breathing. I felt like I stopped breathing. So that could have occurred for maybe 2 minutes. I stopped breathing, but I'm not sure if you can start, if your body can start breathing again without resuscitation. But my
Yeah.
father said I had a
Yeah, I
problem.
did.
So
I was drowned. I drowned. I was under the water quite a while. I wasn't breathing, but my spirit was running around, flying, doing stuff. And then next thing I remember from running around town doing it, suddenly I'm back in my body. I'm coughing up water down my brother's back. So, you know, there's no way I had been breathing for quite some time.
wow, no, that's a miracle, you know.
Yeah.
And it just it paints a picture that miracles do happen on this planet. And it's just when it happens to you, I think it's always good to come forward with it And like you mentioned, Peggy, if it can help, terminally ill people or family members who are ill, it gives them hope, and belief that there is another world, and we all do go there. It's just, you got to live your life on this planet, and then it's a waiting game, Peggy. You can't rush this, When your time is up, it's up. When your number's up, it's up.
Yeah.
God will know when to take you.
Yeah, and most people are told, go back. It's not your time. I was told it is your time. But years ago, I had asthma real bad, and they were doing some breathing tests on me. And the nurse's face got real confused, and she said, I've never met anybody, as much as she's done this test, that has as much reserve air as you do. And immediately made me think of my drowning. And I got wondering if there was something about my body that was, I was able to sustain being drowned as long as I was. For her to say that to me, just immediately my thoughts went to my drowning. Wonder if that had any effect on, me still being alive or come back to life or whatever it was, when I was coughing up water. It's just I've never seen anybody have as much reserve air as you do.
And it's a combination, Peggy, because you go through pain, you go through shock, and then you go through joy, and then you go through whole. You feel whole when you get to the magical kingdom. I think you combine all of that. It's a journey. You go through the pain, then you go through the joy, and then you feel whole. And I think that's why we're placed on this planet. I think God wants to test us, and once our time is up, He knows when to take us.
Yeah.
But it's just a test to see if you're good or bad, and then you'll be put through pain and joy, and then as you come to the end of the tunnel, I'm basing this on my experience. When you get to the end of the tunnel, you know your destiny. And I truly believe I was going to heaven, but it just wasn't my time.
And the speed in the tunnel is what fascinates me too. It's like, how far away was I from Earth to feel that speed and that distance? It made me feel like how, physically far away did I go? Because I felt like I was going through galaxy and galaxy and galaxy through that tunnel. And then it just stopped. And then I was just in the quiet, bright white light.
Did it feel like a vacuum for you going through that experience?
Yes. It felt like I was shot like a rocket, but also being sucked like up through a straw.
Yeah,
like you were pushing, pulling, this force that was just taking me.
Yeah, mine was a spinning experience, very fast spinning experience. And my tunnel was going smaller until I blacked out. And then as everything was black, in the middle, I could see like a small sun getting bigger and bigger. And as it got complete, I seen complete orange. And then it went to beautiful colors, green, purple, orange. And then I was in the magical kingdom, I believe that's when I touched heaven. So, but I'm not sure if I seen God, but I know I was present with my granddad.
Whenever I hear people like you mention that you were at a park bench, it touches my heart because the most vivid dream I ever had was a few years ago. And I was sitting on a park bench talking to a pretty woman with blonde hair, like shorter blonde hair. And when I woke up, I started crying because I missed my friend. Like this woman became so, I don't know what we were talking about, but it was so deep and personal. And we just we became such good friends just by like meeting on this bench. I don't know what she was telling me, but like she was so intelligent and so kind and patient. And I woke up and just sobbed, like, I miss my friend. I didn't know who that woman was. So whenever, like you just mentioned a park bench, and I've heard a couple other people, and as soon as they say that, a park bench, and they're in this having experience, I think, who was that woman?
Yeah, of course. And, like I mentioned earlier, Peggy, on my experience, I just felt it was more than a dream. And I always felt there was this instinct inside me that was like pushing it to, when you want to investigate it further, find out more information, what actually happened to you. Was it a dream, or was it really a side effect? Did something happen to you?
Yeah, we go through that questioning.
I always had that question hovering over me. And like I mentioned earlier in this video, only up until we've had, you know, technology, IT, internet, many people have been able to come forward. And yeah, me doing my research, relating to other people, knowing their story, being sucked into a vacuum, like going fast in a tunnel. That was my experience. And then, you know, I seen the light at the end, and then I ended up in a magical kingdom, heaven. So
And a
yeah,
dream, it takes a while to get into that REM sleep, that deep sleep, to have a dream. And
yes,
so why would you, when your eyes are flickering and you just went out, have a dream? That would make no sense. And then why would it be so vivid in your memory? And I know I kept looking back for years because I have a very strong long-term memory. So a lot of my memories are detailed and strong, but these certain ones just stuck out and kept reappearing. And I was like, what is that? It makes no
yeah.
sense. And I'd push it away. And
I
then,
was, yeah,
say the internet, then we start to realize and learn.
yeah. Well, I can relate. Like I mentioned earlier, traveling on trains. I travel past windmills. Anytime there was a rainbow, I get tingles. So that's a couple of examples. What
Yeah, the
happened to my,
triggers.
and I wasn't even thinking about my experience, but something was touching me. You know, I can reflect on that. I remember this place. You know, like the rainbows, like when I was skimming the stones and the stones were developing into rainbows, and then I seen the most beautiful windmill across the other side of the lake, and I remember I'm hoping it was my grandfather saying to me, "You can't go in there. This is as far as you can go." And we were on the park bench, sitting down, skimming stones. And then when I had to go the other direction, that's when I started storming back into my body. So yeah, I
And then
left.
to be told later that was something your grandfather did, the skin
Yeah,
stuff.
well,
So,
yeah, like I mentioned, my father, I was having a few beers with him one evening. I said, "Do you remember that bad experience I had, that seizure?" He said, "Yeah, you know, like to this day, Shane, I truly believe you were in heaven." And it's funny, I actually forgot to mention this to you. My grandmother, she stopped breathing when she gave birth to the oldest one, Johnny. So Johnny's passed on. So there was three brothers. So Johnny was the oldest. My father was the middle brother, and Terry is the youngest. So Johnny passed away about 12 years ago now. But when Johnny was alive, he confirmed that my nan was dead for 2 minutes when giving birth. And she told my father this story where she went through a tunnel. But she said there was hideous laughing, completely different to my experience. But she had to go through this tunnel, and she reached the pearly gates of heaven, and they told her to go back, and she did not want to go back to listening to all the hideous laughing. But she ended up waking up. So I guess we all have different experiences, but
yeah.
I from the beginning I didn't want to believe it was too good to be true. If that makes sense, Peggy. But like I mentioned, when it happened with my nan, and I know it happened to me, and then a lot of people coming forward, it's always good to get it off your chest or get it out of your soul, and you know, cleanse it and let other people relate to it if it's happened to them, so they can come forward. Because I never thought I'd be speaking on a TV show explaining what happened to me, my experience, and I feel like it's cleansing doing this because I've kept it in a long time, and I haven't spoken about this in about 10 years. I think my father was the last person I spoke to actually. Yeah, so
Well,
it's
I'm glad that we hooked up, and I think you sent
fantastic.
me a friend request because you liked my show. You saw me on a
Yeah,
podcast, and then right after that, I thought, "Oh, who is this?" And then I looked. Actually, before I accepted your request, I looked a little bit on your wall, make sure you weren't, a
of
fake
course.
account. And so I just looked, and in no time, I seen the two hands, and I immediately accepted your friend request and commented on the hands, and then you messaged me and told me about your NDE, and here we are. It was just a couple days ago, so that's cool.
Yeah, of course, Peggy. With my father being in hospital, it does make you realise how precious life is. And I looked at your TV show, and because of what I spoke to my father, and him being one of the only people that believe my experience, my father being in hospital, I just started digging up, doing a bit of research online, seeing, looking into near-death experiences, and I was looking on YouTube. I come across your station and all the people that you've interviewed. A couple of guys that related to my experience. I just believed it was the right thing to do, to add you as a friend, speak to you, direct messaging, and hopefully, which we've done now today, get an interview with you and explain my experience. And I'm glad, other people are listening to this, hopefully can learn something from it.
Yeah, and it'll be on YouTube by this evening. So
Well,
will you show it to your, I'll send you the link in your Facebook as soon as it's published. Will you show it to your dad?
I'm definitely going to show it to my father, yes, without a doubt. And he's going to be discharged now, hopefully Monday. So this will be the perfect gift for him. Because
what's his name again?
Oh, my father's name is Bernard. So Bernard.
Hi, Bernard. Get well.
That's going to be an absolute treasured greeting, and hopefully praying my father's on the mend and he gets better. Yes. But I would just also like to thank you, Peggy, for having me on your TV show, and me explaining my experience, what happened to me when I was 10 back in 1993. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I'll talk to you later. Okay.
Peggy, and wishing you all happiness and stay healthy in the future. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Peggy.
Bye. Bye.